Greetings, good people of the interweb. 3 years ago I made a video about how I had gotten in the past nail fungus on my thumbnail and how I found a way to fix it while not really trusting the medical establishment and the supposed cures that it wanted to put me into, basically just to keep milking me for money. I used a lighter to fix it, and I shared that experience with you. That video has gotten hundreds of thousands of views, and it also has gotten a lot of comments and likes and a lot of encouragement and a lot of thanks from many people who also fixed their problem using the same method I used back then. So I thought, in that same vein, I would like to make a video regarding my knee problems and how I fixed them. You see, I had a big problem with my knees, which had started when I had a ski accident when I was 16, which was decades ago. And I thought that it's chronic, this is how it's gonna be, because my knees were getting inflamed very, very fast when I was running especially. They were hurting a lot and I could not keep running, I had to stop. So even though I could train with martial arts and stuff, I couldn't really, for example, run, which I always wanted to do, or do other sports which involved continuous running. So recently, very recently, less than a year ago, I found a way that fixed my knee problems completely. And I'm pretty sure that can also fix your knee problems if you have any, or if you ever get some. It can also be useful because you can prevent your knee problems, which should appear if you keep wearing the wrong shoes. And you guessed it, the way I fixed my knee problems was twofold. One part was nutrition, but I'm gonna talk about that in another video. But the other one was, and maybe the main one, was changing my shoes. You see, about a century ago, sports shoes companies came up with a certain design of sneakers, of sports shoes, running shoes, which was more or less this. So it's an elevated sole in the back, and then it's lower, and there is also a support for the arch of the foot. This design is really bad. And I really don't mean to put this particular brand down. This brand is called Viking, and it's actually it was for years my favorite sneakers brand, because, you know, I had to buy these shoes. I think it's Norwegian. I had to buy these shoes when I was on a trip to Norway, and my hiking boots broke, and I had to buy some shoes to replace them until I left. So I bought this brand, and I never changed it ever since, because I really love the quality and the materials and stuff. But unfortunately, so far, I think they don't produce any Barefoot shoes, unless I'm not up to date with that. But I hope they will do that in the future, because I love the brand and I'd like to keep supporting it. But unfortunately, I'm never ever going to wear normal sneakers like these anymore. Because you see, about 6 months ago, I tried for the first time in my life barefoot shoes. So here's the problem. Those sneaker companies, those running shoes companies, they came up with the idea that if you elevate the heel, that will help propel the runner forward even better. So they came up with the idea, and that became the norm for running shoes, because it was a time that running shoes were basically invented. And so this is how they thought about it, and this is how they went about it. Unfortunately, this messes up with the anatomy of the foot, an anatomy which is formed throughout millions of years of evolution. Our foot is perfectly designed to run. That's what it's designed for. When you go and change the way it stands, or the way it functions, or the way, you know, the pressure is distributed, or anything like that, you're gonna mess up with the design. The results are gonna be suboptimal. And to prove that theory is the simple fact that many of the biggest running champions in history with records that are still unsurpassed, there were usually some African runners who happened to run barefoot, until, of course, the Olympics committee made them wear shoes, forced them to wear shoes, and then they had to wear shoes. But there was a time in the early days that they were running barefoot, and they were breaking all records. They were leaving everybody behind, like people like Gebrselassie and people like that. They were just phenomenal runners, and they were running barefoot until they were made to wear shoes. So what is the problem with the sneakers of today? There are mainly three problems. One problem is the fact that, like I said, they raise the heel. When you do that, the whole anatomy of the foot changes. The way it functions in relation to the knee completely changes. You know, the foot is made to distribute pressure in a certain way and to distribute force in a certain way. And when you mess up with the position, the final position of the foot or the ankle, then that messes up the anatomy of the entire leg all the way up to the back. There are back problems that come from the shoes. The other problem, the second problem that we have, is that those shoes usually have support. They have support for the arches. The arch of the foot is created to make this movement, you know, when pressure is exerted. And this helps it use, function as a spring to, distribute the force and then push it upwards. And it also, like I said, helps dissipate a certain force, which creates vibrations. So when you when you put support on the arch, that's the worst thing you can do. And the other thing that it messes up with this design is the toes, because our toes are supposed to be splayed. Naturally, if you see people who are running barefoot, their toes are like that. And our toes are like that, they're pressed together. Here's a picture of LeBron James, who is one of the most famous basketball players of our days. And you can see that his feet have turned into something out of a horror movie because of the shoes that he's been wearing, the sneakers. It looks like this kind of a Chinese, shoe situation, that they're pushing the toes together. And the toes are, becoming a mangled thing. And you would think that somebody who is training for his entire life, I mean, the guy has obviously spent hundreds and thousands of hours of training into his career. And the rest of his body looks fine and healthy. The rest of his muscles, the rest of his skeletal system. But his feet, they look deformed. They look like they belong to some kind of strange creature, not a human being. And the reason for that is because they've been in traditional, conventional sneakers for such a long time. So many hours of training in such sneakers created that result. That cannot be healthy. That cannot be normal. That cannot be fine. So you can see that those three problems really mess up with the anatomy of the foot and of the knee. Now, what I did when I figured this out from a good friend of mine, who, that friend of mine is Lee Smith. He's one of the most, legendary swordsmen of our time in our sport, which is called historical European martial arts. And Lee often trains barefoot, not with barefoot shoes, which he usually wears, but completely barefoot. And I had a talk with him about that, and he said that he got me into that, researching that barefoot shoe thing, or no drop shoes, as they are also called. Because he told me that the thing about the knee, basically, everybody has knee problems, and this is how to fix them. And that he trains this way in order to preserve his knees, and that it works a lot better this way. So after that conversation we had, I ordered my first ever barefoot shoes, which are these. The brand is called Merrell. Yeah, Merrell says it here. Here it says Vibram. I think it's that kind of sole or whatever. And it really doesn't matter what brand it is, because there are many nice brands of barefoot shoes. And I think you'll be fine with another brand as well. But I got this one because it looked fine to me, and it has worked perfectly until now. I really love these shoes, and I'll tell you what the experience was like, and what changes I felt and how I adapted to it. Because let's face it, our feet have gotten very soft and very frail. They're used to having that thick support of a thick sole, so that you can step on anything and not feel anything. And that doesn't make them hard or resilient. So when you switch to barefoot shoes, which are basically like wearing nothing, it becomes like basically walking barefoot, which people totally did once upon a time, not so long ago. And they could do it, and they had no problem with it, and nobody complained about it. Nobody even thought about it. But in our time, because we're used to shoes with very thick soles, our feet are just very soft. So when you switch to barefoot shoes, the first thing you're gonna experience is that, because these are very soft, you can see it's so soft, you can just put them in your pocket. It's like you wear nothing basically. It's really thin. It's really, really thin and really soft. So the first change that you're gonna experience is that you feel completely everything you step on. You step on a little stone, you feel it. And when I say you feel it, I mean it hurts. It also hurts when you just do normal things like just walk or run. You walk or you run, and it just really hurts because it's a hard surface and your foot has not gotten used to receiving direct pressure from a hard surface, especially for a prolonged time. So that's gonna take some time to get used to. Some people suggest that you should do it gradually. You shouldn't wear barefoot shoes the entire time from the beginning. I tend to agree, although I personally just went all out and I just switched to barefoot shoes. But I guess I had a bit of a head start because of martial arts, because I used to train martial arts barefoot for years. So my feet maybe were not as soft as most people, even though they were still pretty soft because of the shoes. And I switched to the barefoot shoes, and it worked really well for me, because the first thing that happened is, apart from the pain in my knees subsiding, which happened, the other thing that happened is that I immediately started feeling my ankles getting stronger. My ankles were getting a lot stronger because they were not in that super supported and super unnatural position anymore, which relies on the structure of the shoe in order to support the foot. So it's basically like muscles in the ankles that were not used suddenly started getting used. And I really felt my ankles getting really stabilized and strong. I really feel my ankles until today. I really cannot twist my foot or something like that. It cannot happen. This is how strong they are now. And the only time they were about as strong was the time that I was really training martial arts many times a week. And so I was many hours a week barefoot training kicks and stuff. So that's how it's the same sensation that they have now. So when you transition from wearing conventional sneakers into wearing barefoot shoes for the first time, you should be a little cautious, because you can really hurt your feet by doing things that you were used to doing. For example, one time I was at an archaeological park and I had to jump from a big stone to another one. And when I landed, I mostly kind of landed on my heel, and I really hurt my heel because the heel suddenly didn't have this much rubber, underneath it. It had nothing. So I just crashed with my heel onto a rock, basically, full force by jumping from one rock to the other. And that really hurt my heel. And I think it hasn't, I think it's more than a month now that this happened, and it still hasn't recovered. But it's gonna recover, it's gonna be fine. It's just a lesson that you have to be a little more careful until your feet get tough. Now, it's been about 6 months, I think, that I wear barefoot shoes. I wear them all the time. I don't wear anything else when I go out. And I never will wear anything else when I go out, if I can help it. unless, you know, I don't know, whatever, I need to wear some kind of special boots for something. We'll see. But so far I found a solution for all my needs with barefoot shoes, because what I did, apart from the sneakers that I showed you, is because I spent a lot of time also in the garden doing, you know, farming stuff with my chickens or whatever. So I also need rubber boots. You need to wear rubber boots. You cannot do these things with just normal shoes. So what I did is I just got barefoot rubber boots. They do exist, believe it or not. So this is a brand, HH. It's the initials of some kind of name, I think. I don't remember. Some Swedish brand, I think. It's also Scandinavian. But the thing about this particular brand that I didn't like is that even though it's got a big toe box, I would like it if it was a bit wider. Because also my shoes, my feet are opening out a bit now that I'm wearing barefoot shoes all the time. So I think this is a little too narrow. I don't know, maybe it's Scandinavian feet are narrower than ours, I have no idea. But, or mine in particular. But the thing is, that's the only thing I would like to be different. Other than that, it's so good that it's, you know, so flexible, like a barefoot shoe. It's really soft, and it's like you're wearing almost nothing. Now, before those rubber boots, the rubber boots I had, and which I kept just for the purpose of making this video, then I'm gonna throw them to the dumpster, are these ones. Just standard rubber boots with a heel. And I can tell you, after wearing this for a couple of hours and working in the garden, my feet were killing me. They were killing me. It was so painful. That's how bad they are. And when I wear the other rubber boots, I can just work all day and I really don't feel any pain on my foot. Apart from when I have to shovel things and I have to step on the shovel, because it's basically like stepping on a shovel barefoot. So that hurts, but my foot is getting tougher, so hopefully that will fix itself and I'll be able to shovel without so much pain in the future. But you know, other than that, it's so much more natural to work with those rubber boots. I really love it. So the last thing I want to do now, or the last for now, is I would like to replace my combat boots, the boots I have. I'd like to replace them with barefoot boots. So I know that they exist, that barefoot combat boots exist. Many companies are jumping on the bandwagon of barefoot shoes because everybody's realizing that, you know, suddenly it's fixing all my problems with my knees and my feet and everything. And it improves a lot of other things like back problems, lower back problems, circulation on the feet. And even if you go into reflexology and, you know, how the feet affect the rest of the body, it really helps with that too. So many companies are jumping on that bandwagon, and you should expect to be seeing more and more barefoot shoes as it's already happening. So there are even combat boots, believe it or not, that exist as barefoot shoes, barefoot combat boots. So that's my next goal, to get one of those. If you have a good idea, by the way, about that, you can leave a suggestion down in the comments, and I will read it and check it out, of course. If you have tried some, let me know. So again, like the previous video of this kind, this is a video I'd love to have seen many years ago, when I had my knee problems and I thought it's just a chronic problem that will never go away because of my ski accident, which did heal, apparently, but my knees kept hurting because the problem was different. It was an inflammation that was a combination of nutrition, which I'm gonna get into in another video, and also the shoes that we're wearing, which are totally wrong. It should be criminal that to allow wearing those shoes that we're wearing, and yet we are. And everybody's wearing shoes that are making especially high heel shoes for women. I mean, that's criminal. That's really messing up with the anatomy of the foot in such a great way. And for what? Just to make women look a little taller or whatever? It's fine. We love women anyway. They don't need to look taller. We need them to be healthy rather than taller. So once again, we see that there is an establishment. There are some companies which have come up with something. They're making money out of it. And they know better because they have the resources to do research, which they have done, of course, because that's their job, and to know that this messes up with the anatomy of the foot. But they have invested already. It's basically like them coming out and saying, we were wrong all along. Everything we've done so far, you cannot trust us. We were wrong. So they will keep going with that narrative just to maintain their profits and their reputation. So that's a huge problem, as you understand, because who is paying the let's say the medical negligence on that field? It's not them. They're making money. It's us, the people who are using their shoes, buying their shoes and wearing their shoes. So it has to change through us. It has to change by us getting educated, realizing that the establishment, or what doctors suggest, doctors are prescribing, stupid anatomic shoes with support to people who have problems with their feet, which is exactly the opposite of what they should be doing. And they do that in so many areas that it should make us really not trust them, without examination. I'm not saying everything they do is wrong, but there are a lot of things they do that are wrong. And you have to understand, doctors are not researchers. Doctors do not do research. In fact, there are few branches of let's say, knowledge that are more dogmatic than doctors. Because when you have to learn such a big volume of knowledge in order to start working as a doctor and making a lot of money, of course, which is the main motivation of most doctors nowadays, to become doctors, then what you do is you learn everything dogmatically. You don't have time to do research. Research takes time. It's a lot easier to take things for granted, what they teach you for granted, because you're going to use that, and you're going to use it as a reinforcement of your authority to make money out of people who are going to come to you with problems. And also, of course, the whole industry is based around, doctors really not fixing problems, because when they fix a problem, that's it. One visit, you pay them for one visit, and then they don't see you again. But when you keep having a problem, then it's visit after visit, week after week, for years. So that's a lot of money, as opposed to one single visit. So of course I've got a huge financial motivation to not fix your problem, but prolong it. So maybe there is a bit of a nefarious reason also behind the fact that they could, maybe some of them do know better, and they could suggest that you just wear bloody barefoot shoes, and fix your freaking problems, or just even walk barefoot. Many may know it, but they won't suggest it because, one, the textbook doesn't say it, because the textbook is produced by an industry or financed by an industry, and so they want to make money. They're not making money out of you wearing, walking around barefoot, or because the other thing about barefoot shoes is they're very durable. I don't know it firsthand because I've got them for 6 months, but I've seen it. I've seen a lot of people talk about that, about the fact that those shoes last like for a very, very long time compared to normal sneakers. And so that's another thing. So the takeaway from that is that do not do not trust doctors out of hand. Do your research. Realize that there are other motivations apart from their noble desire to make you well inside of their hearts. Maybe there are other motivations as well. Maybe realize that. Maybe realize why they became doctors in the first place. Maybe, or not maybe, there are some doctors who do have a calling, and they are, let's say, higher souls, and they want to do good to people, and they become doctors to fix people's problems. But let's just face it, most people become doctors because they can make ridiculous amounts of money in a very short time. And they're not going to do that by losing customers, let's say. They're going to do it by keeping customers, which means keeping people sick. So yeah, get your health into your own hands. Buy barefoot shoes. Buy all kinds of barefoot shoes, barefoot rubber boots, barefoot combat boots, barefoot whatever. And if you can, walk as much as you can barefoot without any shoes. That's also great. And you will definitely see a huge improvement in your knee health and your lower back health and every other kind of health that is related with that. Until the next time, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I really hope that this helped some of you. Be well and take care.